I'm going to show you guys real quick. I get a lot of people. I see so many people buying these buses and just way overpaying for them. And I kind of wanted to give you guys a heads up that are looking for projects, how to figure out whether it's a good deal and how much to buy one for, and you know why would one be worth more than another. A couple of things you want to know first. There are some crazy things. These are actually really pretty rare machines that I have here. This is a 61 Westphalia. It's 61, has really tail lights in it. It's missing a lot of the interior. I don't have anything pretty much other than some of the hooks, and it has some of the lights. It does have the sub hatch, and I have the panel for it. I'm going to show you. This here is a 13 window. 13 window. I bought this as a project, restored it. And this is a couple of things you want to know. So let's say you're looking at a combi bus. A combi bus is basically, or a combi bus or a standard bus is basically a 13 window without this last piece of glass in it. It looks just like this bus here. Okay, 11 window bus. They call them 11 window combi, 11 window standard. Standard buses had two-tone paint and a few other items inside, some extra sheet metal. And the standard bus had, or the combi bus was pretty much what this bus is without the Westphalia camper stuff in it. Let's see. Yeah, this is a combi bus. This is basically from a combi platform. The biggest difference is it had single color paint, except for the Westphalia, of course, had two-tone, which just had two-tone paint. And it has a groove in here for a panel that goes in this section of the roof, where the standard bus has headliner clips going along here. So the most desirable bus, of course, is the 23 window, then the 21 window, then the 13 window, then right with the 13 window, or maybe actually this is actually more desirable in the bus family. Not, double cabs are of course worth more than some of these, depending on what you have. But the Westphalia is the 61 Westphalia is right up there, right under the 21 window as far as value goes when it's restored. So, and then the 13 window is right below that, actually. Sorry. So I probably got them a little bit out of order there. But you have to look at these things and to determine, how much, a lot of people say first thing to look at is the condition of the car. Really, the first thing to look at the bus is how complete the project is. If it has all the door handles, if it has the speedometer, the horn button, the steering wheel, any of those things that's missing, you just got to go subtract that from the value. Okay, if it's missing things like the ashtray, the headlight stuff, the turn signal housings, not this part, but the housing that goes over it with the lens. If it's missing the seats, so many people buy these things without seats, and they pay way too much money for it because the seats are missing, and the seats are going to cost you, an arm and a leg to buy. You need to know what the value of how much those seats cost before you buy that bus. So the other thing is you need to know the pecking order of basically what I was explaining. If you're looking for an 11, let's just talk about 11 windows because they're the easiest ones, the most common available, and that would be basically one of this bus without the sub hatch in it. When it has the sub hatch in it, the value goes way up. So let's talk about this 11 window you're looking at. Let's say you're looking at 11 windows. You want to buy one, and you're going to restore it or whatever. So the first thing you look at is how complete the bus is. Does it have the gas door? the hardware for it. Does it have a gas cap, gas tank? Is the engine in it? Okay. Does it have this handle? Does it have the correct door for this, for the year? 61. 60, I think it's what, 61 to 63 has that little divot. Does it have a large nut transaxle? If you're going to run it at stock height, you want the large nut transaxle instead of the small nut. This one has a small nut. It cost me another $500 to make this transaxle roadworthy because I wanted the gears of a big nut. So I just couldn't find a big nut trans. Otherwise, I would have just built one. But it wasn't that much more, so I just went ahead and went with the one I had. Now I have another extra large nut laying around. I made sure to have one. So, does it have all the glass? So you look at the glass there, look at the glass here. These suckers are for reproduction glass. For original, if you have a 61, for instance, the Sigla glass might be $75 to $100 each for original glass. If you can even find it, you probably can't. More than likely you can't. But if you're going to get aftermarket glass, you're going to spend $40 a piece. All the frames aren't too bad. You can get those things for about $16 to $30, unless you go to Wolfsburg West, they're about $60 a piece. The metal frames. So when you start adding up the parts, is where you get hosed. You can do the and so then with respect to that, you have to then assess the sheet metal damage. So if it needs cargo floors, you're looking at $600-700 for the materials plus tax. You're looking at, if you got to get the front floors, $250 to $300. Plus, most of the time you're going to be doing metalwork all around them. It's not just the floors that you're replacing. You're going to be doing all the metalwork all the way around them. If it needs the floor edges, those are $60-70 a piece. So, you have to add up the cost of all the missing parts and then add the cost of all the repair parts and then figure out the man hours and labor it's going to cost you to have those repair panels put in. So the first thing being, like I said, you look at assess the whole bus for the parts it has, assess all the parts that are missing, assess all the parts that are rusted. Now you come up with a number. You should be able to use your calculator, kind of figure out how much all those parts are going to cost you. So let's say it needs cargo floors, or it needs front floors, it needs back floors. Then if it needs the floors, more than likely for sure it's going to need the rockers, both sides, inner and outer. And that's probably another $200 or $300 worth of metal there. So, and if it needs new corners, the whole corners are bad. Those are like, now they've come down in price. They used to be $500 for just this sheet metal. The lower sheet metal from here down was $500. So if you had to replace the whole corner, if you can fix it, then that's something else. If it needs the fender wells, they're not cheap either. I don't remember the price of them, but you need to add all that in, factor that in to your base value of the vehicle. So if you have an 11 window, it's completely redone. It's all restored to an 8 out of 10. Basically the way I've done all my other cars and my other buses is about an 8 out of 10. It's not 10s out of 10. I don't do anything like that. The 11 window is only worth about $26,000 completely done. So if your labor and your materials are adding up to more than that, it would be crazy for you just not to just save your money and buy one already done. Be really crazy for you not to do that. But I've seen so many guys spend 10 grand on a bus that needs cargo floors. It's missing half the parts. It has no seats, and it has the speedometer missing, and and needs the front floors replaced. It needs the inner and outer sheet metal here. There's 3 layers of metal here. You got your lower nose. You have this panel here that's below that. Behind that, there's another support piece, and it needs all 3 of those, or a whole nose. And these are rusted out so bad that you can't repair it, and so these things are like, I think they're $125 for the funky green panel pieces for just for the lower parts of the windshield. And they spent 10 grand on it, and it's 11 window. It's only going to be worth 26 grand, guys. I mean, oh well, mine will be worth more. No, I've sold, I don't know how many of them, and you know what? The price has not gone up on any of them. The last one I sold was the same price as the first one I sold 5 years ago. So you tell me I don't know what I'm doing. That's fine. You can figure it out later. But what I'm telling you guys is, look, if you're paying more than that, you're paying a premium for your vehicle. It's going to cost you more than it's worth when you're done. So, let me just give you a heads up on buses. Let's say you take your bus to a shop and you said, hey, I want to see how much it's going to cost me to paint this. Honestly, if a guy says he'll do the metalwork and paint for less than 25 grand, you're scaring me. That's like crazy. That's including buying the metal panels and doing the metalwork and replace, on an average bus. So like what I was saying, maybe it needs front floors, maybe it needs some of this stuff, nose pieces done, lower doors, your rockers, inner and outer. It's got some metalwork in the back corners, of course. They all have this stuff, and to get it done right, you think you're going to end. The lower doors here are wasted, which is almost always the case. These are wasted. Sometimes the fender wells are cut out. So you think you're going to get that done for less than 25 grand. You know what? You're just not going to get it done. It's just not going to, if you want it done right, if you're looking at an A+ paint job, or, even a B, or a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10, 8 out of 10, you're just dreaming. You're just not even in the stratosphere. 10 grand. I've seen guys do them for 10 grand. It's doable, but you're only going to get an 8 out of 10. And you don't go taking your bus down after the guy's all done and you spent 10 grand to get it painted and then bitch about him about some little stupid nick. You live with that shit. If it's in there, you live with it. Don't go and take it back to the guy and go, hey, can you fix this? You only spent 10 grand. You should have spent 25. Shut up and drive it. That's just the rules. You don't go back to shops and start telling them that they need to do more work than what you've bargained for. You got a cheap job, live with it. Okay? 10 grand sounds like a lot of money, but it's not near enough for the labor it takes to restore one of these things. So I'm just telling you guys this so you get in reality and realize what you're getting into when you get into one of these buses, because I've seen so many people in the last few years spending $10,000 on a project that's only worth $3. It's only worth $3 grand. And that's, because it needs so much work. It needs cargo floors, it needs front floors, it needs, all the windows are all rusted out on the bottom here, and you think if somebody's going to go fix that for 10 grand, good luck. It just ain't going to happen. So, or you're going to do it yourself over the next 20 years or so, I don't know, whatever it's going to take you. If you're not a metalwork person, something like that takes me a long time to do. It might take me a whole year. And I've done, I don't know how many buses now. It's 6, 7. I owned one for 30 years. I know what these things take to do. It's not easy. So anyway, like for instance, this bus here, this whole top package, tray or whatever it's called for the engine cover was rusted out. So I had to put a whole new piece on here. It was so badly rusted I couldn't save it, and I found one luckily at one of the events, and I was able to just craft that in. Of course, I don't do super A+ work on stuff that I can't see, especially when it's behind the gas tank. About welding stuff in like that, if you guys want to do that, go for it, And then you're talking about, of course, if you want that kind of work done, you better spend 25, 35 grand or even more. Expect to spend that kind of money if you're going to do it. So anyway, that's why the 21 windows, 23 windows are selling for $75,000 to $100,000, or 20, and the 23 windows are up over 100,000. And because you add up all the more glass up here, replacing, and you add up all the all the more rust work that's up here, and when these things leak, guess what? It goes down here, it goes into the inner panels, all in here. It gets inside here, it goes down inside these guys, they get rusted out. Your supports, you end up in, like I say, roof rust. Roof rust is probably one of the worst events that you can have happen, is the roof rust, because the roof rust goes through the roof down. And so if you see a bus and it's got a bad roof, you need to really look at that thing close, because more than likely there's so much damage from that roof that it's probably better off just letting somebody else buy that one. If it's got a rust holes all the way around, definitely a do not buy bus. You're going to be in for a huge nightmare. It's not going to be just the roof, because everything from the roof down is going to be wiped out. So these are a few things to look at when you're trying to buy one of these. Like I said, you're going to be doing it as a labor of love. It's not going to be, something that you're going to, and you're not just going to go out and buy one for 10 grand and then, with the bad damage like that, and have, you're going to have another $10,000 in parts. I've seen a lot of this with these guys with panel buses. A lot of guys are buying the panel buses. I mean, you want to think about something for a second. Have you ever driven a panel bus? First of all, that's what I want to ask you if you're looking at one. They are the noisiest, rattliest thing you've ever driven. There is no headliner. There is nothing other than just a big metal box going down the road, making all kinds of noise, and you can't see anything out of the mirrors. All these are all blocked off, and you got these little tiny little mirrors. You're changing lanes by braille, and you're gonna have 30 grand in that thing. Are you kidding me? Come on, I mean, you're not gonna want to even drive it. Hardly. You're gonna drive it a couple times and you go, forget this. I'm not getting in this thing. It's a death trap. That's what you're driving. So, the value of those things, people buying those things. I've seen people buy panels for, it's like I buy a double door panel with giant rust in the floor, and it had, like had the belly pans were completely gone. And usually what happens when the floor rusts out in a bus that has belly pans, it's the same thing for sunroof and 23 window, 21 window vans, is when the floor rusts out, okay, and it has a belly pan, the water has no place to go, so it just gets in there and festers, and frame rails are toast, all the cable runs going from front to rear are wasted, the heater tube is gone, everything that's between the floors and the belly pans is toast almost every time. So that's why they sell for the 23 windows, 21 windows sell for so much money, because there is a lot more work that needs to be done in those vans. So, like I said, when you're looking at your 11 window, that's really what you're worth today's market. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years, it'll change. I don't really know. I don't gamble. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what the future holds. But that's what they are today. So, anyway, keep this stuff in mind when you're going to buy a bus. You know, for instance, this one here, if you look there on the door, there was a few rust holes along the bottom of that door. All that sheet metal had to come off, was replaced. Both doors were the same. Could have got new doors, I guess, but then I wanted to have these. Hold on, sorry about that. These are 1 year only or something like that. I don't know. 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know everything about these things. I just know what I know. So anyway, those are some of the things that you need to really keep in mind there when you're buying a bus and determining value, and you're, looking at it, weigh out the cost of the bus, add up the parts it needs, add up the rust repair panels it needs. If you're going to do the work yourself, then you figure out kind of your man hours. I mean, how many years is this thing going to take me? If it's got all that stuff, it might take me, 5 years to do. And then, how much older are you going to be in 5 years? Are you going to be able to drive that thing in 5 years? You need to think about that. What if you're dead? How long are you going to live? Do you know? I don't. So you have to weigh all that stuff out. Don't just go out and just buy one because you want one. Weigh out the whole thing. Figure out what's the value of what it's worth, and then make an offer based on that. And you know what? And if the guy doesn't like it, then screw it. Don't buy it. Wait for another one. At least keep looking and wait for the right one. Don't throw your money away on something that's just because you want to have one of these. Because you know what? If you're not me, you're not going to be able to do all this metal work just verbatim that you don't. I mean, there's other guys that are better than me, for instance. I mean, there's tons of guys out there that are way better than me at this. I mean, they do fantastic work. They butt weld everything in, and it's absolutely perfect. They just grind it down, and it's all straight, and everything lines up. They're out there. I've seen tons of the guys doing that, but then again, it takes them 6-7 times as many man hours as it takes me to do the way I do it. So, of course, it costs more money for that. You have to add that all up. Anyway, nobody works for free. Nobody's bills get paid because they do nice work. They get paid, because they get paid by the hour, man hours that they get paid to do the work. They can't make their bills just because they're good at it. That's not the way it works. You have to think about them when you're thinking about, paying them. Anyway, so that's the heads up on how to get your best deal on a VW bus, and I hope you guys find what you're looking for. And I hope I didn't scare anybody away, but I just want to be real with you. I want you guys to know what you're up against, that it's not an easy battle, that these things don't grow on trees, and restoring these things is usually going to be not a financial reward. It's usually a labor of love. Talk to you later.